Today's random conversations come all the way from Gothenburg, Sweden's second largest city. On Thursday last week, the Gothenburg Media Hub was launched. This is a media initiative that has been established by 8 international journalists with 8 cultural backgrounds from Tanzania, from Russia, from Portugal, from Italy, from Germany, from France, from England, and from Australia. It was created in September 2023, but it was launched last week on the 23rd of November 2023 with an event that was discussing how to survive as a media freelancer. And of course, it was attended by so many media practitioners, the professionals, the scholars, the creatives, with so many professional backgrounds. This is a hub for media professionals, scholars, and creatives in Sweden, connecting the Nordic countries with cross-border projects across Europe. And it was established in September this year with the technical assistance from RE Europe, a pan-European initiative that is supporting similar projects in Europe. On Thursday's event, which was meant to launch the hub, 6 guest speakers were invited to take part as panelists in the discussion of the topic of the day. They include media professionals, freelancers, editors, scholars, and the panel was co-moderated by 2 of the founders, Alex and Regina.
And we actually developed this concept in a design sprint in September, together with the organization Circle, which is part of RE Europe, part of the European Union commissioned organization, which is setting up these media hubs to bring people together in the media community in alternative cities. So it's usually not the capitals, and we are the most north hub.
Yeah.
Is here in Gothenburg.
I wrote them actually down. Different ones are in Porto, Naples, Lyon, Vilnius, Tbilisi, Belgrade, and Cluj. But basically, our Europe is a magazine which is based in Belgium, the Netherlands, with a European perspective, and then they sort of started this project, and we were born from that. On building this a meeting spot for not only journalists but also photographers, videographers, graphic designers, and creatives. A meeting spot that can help us work together and collaborate, bounce ideas, talk about problems, and in future hopefully reach out also to other people in other hubs connected to the project in Europe, or to other people in cross-border collaborations. But it's very early days, and for now, even just getting people around the table and into this fantastic atmosphere is great. And so that's what we got. 2 panels coming up, right?
Yes, we have 2 panels coming up. Alex will be the host of the first panel.
Alex introduced the discussion.
What are the kind of stories that readers of Göteborgs-Posten are interested in internationally? Do they have to be connected to Gothenburg?
Not necessarily, I would say, but it's very difficult to just be so precise, I'd say. Usually a connection to Gothenburg is, of course, valid if it's from a place around the world where a lot of people from the West Coast maybe travels. It's of course relevant, but I would say anything can be. If it's just a really strong personal story, or if it's some kind of issue that maybe people in Gothenburg need to know about, even though it doesn't directly affect them, I would say. Yeah.
Can you think of any sort of example stories, even maybe not connected to Gothenburg, that you think that you commissioned that were interesting?
Well, I'm thinking about one of the articles I bought was from I think it was from Italy, a freelancer, and he was in Georgia, talking about writing about the borderization there, which Russia is doing in around South Ossetia. It doesn't really affect people in Gothenburg, but he met relevant people who was affected about this. Russia is constantly pushing the border, making dividing people in Georgia, families and stuff like that. And he had really good people he was talking about that could really get you to understand the problem, the issue, and how it affected people. And that I would say was a great story for Göteborgs-Posten, even though it's like not connection to the West Coast, but it like shows like a bigger perspective. I mean, you can have so many things into this. I mean, the Ukraine war, but like the ramification of the Georgian war in 2008, for example. But it doesn't have to be that kind of hard issue either. It can also be like coffee making in Vietnam. I bought one of those stories as well.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, because it's like one of the biggest coffee producers, which like people don't really know, but here in Gothenburg people like a lot of coffee, which of course a lot of you probably noticed. And that also is a great story for us, even though it doesn't really, affect the people here per se. I'd say.
And just asking for a friend, these freelance journalists, how do they contact an editor? Because editors seem so far away and so high up and hard to reach. How would a freelance journalist contact an editor at, say, for example, Göteborgs-Posten?
I would first to say that being an editor, like the kind of editor like we have at Göteborgs-Posten, does not feel like that high up. It really feels that.
That's Swedish modesty.
No, it's not Swedish modesty, because otherwise it would feel like imposter syndrome for me, because I didn't feel like that at all. But people are contacting me in different ways, usually by email, or maybe they call me, but usually email, and that's definitely the most preferred one, I would say, because then you can have it really precise and you can get to know each other without like feeling the pressure that you have to say yes or no to the story right away, which is like very easy when you're on the phone and you kind of put on the spot. For me, I also thought like an editor felt high up, but now when I was one and was the one speaking with freelancers, I usually felt a lot like, wow, this person knows a lot about this story and is pitching it to me, and I'm supposed to like be able to say if it's good or not. I mean, who am I to do that? But to come to that, I would say that if you contact me, for instance, by email, be as precise as you can be. Not like, I want to write about this subject in this faraway country. You need to have an idea, and you have to maybe actually have a few lines, which is like the angle. Like,
Ria, how long ago was it that you joined the team? You came to Sweden in March 2022 as a refugee, and you told me earlier about the fact that...
Yeah, actually, is it works? Yeah, it works. Well, when I came as a refugee in March last year, I was contacted with volunteers who tend to come to this refugee camp a lot, and they tend to ask me like, what are your hopes, what are you going to do in here, do you have something like some ideas? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'd like to work, and I'd like to work in the media because I have background, I have experience, and I want to tell about Ukraine. I was so passionate about this, so I guess, and journalists who tend to come and interview me, and volunteers with whom I was in contact. Really wanted me to help me in some way. So they just asked their friends, I've met this girl and it seems to me that she's capable to work in a newspaper. Someone has told about this to Göteborgs-Posten, and wrote in the email, and they were dare enough actually to ask me for an interview. And yeah, actually interview went out to be quite okay. So I got basically a researching job, not like writing articles, but researching. So I helped a lot guys with looking for news, like updating about situation in Ukraine, and help with translation of Ukrainian and Russian. So like this. And since April I was working with several correspondents, working and with domestic stories and with international, for radio, for TV, and it worked out quite okay, I guess.
Question also for Anna, and I was wondering, you come from Amsterdam, which is a big city known for very vibrant, buzzing, and you moved to Gothenburg, which is a small city. Well, not only you moved to Gothenburg, you moved to Brno, which is an even smaller community within the city. How is it hard to be a journalist from such a small place when you have to cover such a big area?
well, I moved here for that reason. Like I grew up in Amsterdam and I was sick of the big city. And so I worked for a newspaper in Amsterdam, for a national newspaper. And I was sick of it. So I chose to become a correspondent, and almost all correspondents these days, at least from the Netherlands, are freelancers. So I chose to move to Scandinavia. And then I lived in the city, but I don't know, I was a bit, how do you say, miserable. And I loved Venne, I loved the archipelago, so I moved to the archipelago. No, it's not so hard, like it takes 45 minutes maybe to get into town. And then it takes 3 hours to get to Stockholm, or 3 to Oslo, or Copenhagen, 4 maybe. So I think it's very doable. Like if you live on the outskirts of London, it already takes an hour and a half sometimes to get into the city center, right? So this is, 45 minutes is doable, I think.
I mean, whenever I commute, I always think about, compared to London, it's just, and then you're like, this is why I'm here. But yeah, that's really interesting. But so as a freelance correspondent for Dutch-speaking media, what are people in the Netherlands or in Belgium interested in when it comes to this corner of the world?
Wow, they're very interested in this corner of the world. They think everything is perfect here.
It is.
So I have to shatter their view. So it remains very funny. So every time something happens in the Netherlands, like anything, something regarding sustainability or innovation or the healthcare system or education, and then they'll ask me like, I'm sure they do that better in Sweden. Can you write a story about that? And then, yeah, sometimes Sweden does better and sometimes it doesn't. But the Netherlands is hoping for the story that everything is milk and honey up north.
They want a fairy tale.
They want
Everything
a fairy
is beautiful.
tale. Paradise, yeah.
In terms of do you also work with talking about Dutch stories or stories about the Netherlands for local media here? Because that is something I know that Regina does with German, covers Germany gives input on Germany to local media. Is that something that you've done also in your freelancing?
I actually haven't, and now I think I should, and so I'm very happy I'm meeting an editor.
How did you come to the point where you're working now? How did you find the job, and how did you choose your niche?
Oh yeah, that's a great question to start with. Where do I begin and how long do we have? So my background is in sustainability communications, and as you mentioned as well, I was working previously in startup environments, which is sort of a similar environment as EIT is as well. It's a newly funded organization that's just starting up. And they have a lot of need for innovative communication, for communication relating to sustainability. And I think especially sustainability communication is something that I observed during the past few years, that there's a massive interest, and that there's it's so much more of a topic recently. So I often also see roles that are sort of a mix of sustainability communicator or marketer, as well as a sustainability coordinator and so on. So I feel like it's a very current niche and a very current specialization.
Okay, and do you work in English all the time, or is it also in Swedish?
Right now my job is around 50-50. I do my best to network in Swedish, even though it can feel awkward. But my working language officially is English, but since we're working with a lot of local companies and universities, I also work in Swedish as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you notice some cultural differences when you communicate the Nordics to other places in Europe?
I can mention maybe one cultural difference coming from Germany. that came up in my working life quite frequently is that in Germany now, if I'm speaking stereotypically, I'm used to very direct communication and feedback.
Who doesn't know that?
Yes. And I noticed that now communicating in the Swedish ecosystem and environment, maybe to be a bit more diplomatic and be a bit more indirect in my opinions and in my feedback. So that's a big difference I noticed. Really.
Yeah, Marit, since you know so much about the Nordic media landscape, did you notice some changes over the last years?
What an ice-breaking question. I need to say, related to your topic, we recently wrote an article about sustainability communication, so I've been in your area as well. There are definitely many changes in the Nordic media landscape, but when it comes to freelancing, which is the topic of this panel, I would say that I can notice one change, which is that previously I think the work was a bit more idea-driven, and you could pitch their ideas. But now media houses are in the Nordics more into establishing more long-standing permanent contracts with their freelancers to make a community, and you know your freelancers, and it's harder to get into media houses or it's into the newsrooms just with some cold contacts that the previous panel was talking about. So that has changed a bit, I think. I used to be over 10 years the coordinator of the internship program at my university in Finland. I've been working as a journalism educator at the university from 2006 on, during that time I already realized that changed.
What is the difficulties which people most of the times come to you?
Yeah, I think when it comes to journalists and media people, the linguistic barrier that I have seen here as well. We should really develop some methods of support and facilitation to overcome that linguistic hurdle, because if you have journalism education and you have a lot of journalistic experience, you have the ideas and the journalistic thinking with you, but to translate all your observations into a new language is not that easy. So there should be some kind of support, I think. And I have been myself struggling with the problem, because when I came to Sweden for 10 years ago, I immediately also wanted to write texts in Swedish, not only in the academic lingua franca in English, and not only in my mother tongue Finnish, but also Swedish. And there was basically no help and no support available. Or there was some supervision, but it was about, I went to the Department of Swedish as a second language, and they tried to tell me how to construct texts, how to structure texts, how to make meanings. And if you know the theory of bi or multilingualism, that's something that can be transferred from one language to another. And it's not there you are supposed to get the support. It's more at a more superficial level, how to express things in an authentic way in the new language. So I also got interested in this bilingualism and multilingualism issues, and I recently took teachers' education in Finnish as a national or second language or national minority language, and also Swedish as a second language. That was my hobby, basically, to study teachers' education. But these are really interesting issues to understand the bilingualism, multilingualism, and also trying to develop formats in journalism that would support crossing linguistic borders.
And do you know of an example where this is, for example, happening, that different languages are used in journalism?
that's happening quite seldom. There have been initiatives in the Nordics as well to use Scandinavian languages parallelly, because it's quite easy. People can or have been able. No, it's not that true anymore in the younger generations, but they can understand each other, at least in the written form. But those initiatives have died, and there are basically not that many such practices. I know that in Finland, in Helsinki, at the University of Applied Sciences called Haaga-Helia, they started a study program for journalists with immigrant background or migrant background, and there they are now developing a multilingual magazine with all these practices that would help and facilitate understanding of different languages. And of course this is becoming increasingly easier because of AI, artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but how was it for you when you came to Sweden? Did you know Swedish already, or did you have to learn it?
No, I didn't know any Swedish, so I started, and it was in the middle of COVID, so I needed 6 months for my SFE to start, and yes, it's about Swedish, but now I'm going to SAS. I'm better in Swedish. I can write a little bit in Swedish. Also, I think if I want to say my friends' attitude toward my Swedish, they say that you talk pretty well Swedish for almost 1 and 6 months studying Swedish. Yeah.
That's great. But when you came here, you landed a gig quite fast at a Persian radio station. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? How did this happen? Did they find you, or did you find them?
Yeah, there is I think there are 5 or 6 Persian radio stations in Gothenburg. So through a friend, I was introduced to one of them. So they called me for an interview, and then they said that I passed the interview. And after a few days, they called me and they said that you got the job. So they said that so you can come by and we can talk about the details. So we went there and talked about. The most important point was that they said that because we are a very small radio, so we have a very low budget, so we cannot pay you. So I decided to say no to that, because my priority was the language, Swedish language. So if I wanted to go there, I needed to do that in Persian, in Farsi, which would take a lot of time and energy. And considering also the economic point, I thought that it was not a good idea for me. But 2 weeks ago, I talked with an Iranian lady. He took the job, that job that I refused, and she told me that I've been working there for a year without any payment. I really don't think that it's fair for someone, the freelancer or something, working for a year and without a salary or something. Yeah.
But recently you also did a project with high school students in Sweden, and as I understood, it was aspiring journalists.
Yes, the first paid freelance journalism, it was by YouTuber Esat, that finished months ago. There is an editorial office in Gothenburg, in Biskopsgården. Every year they choose 3 team leaders with journalistic backgrounds for high school students that they like journalism, but they do not know that if they want to continue the education at university there. So every year they come to that editorial office, and team leaders explain to them that the whole perspective of journalism a theory, a little bit of technical things, how to take interviews, how to write the title, the lead, and at that editorial office, because it's supported by YouTube and several other big companies. They involve politicians, their local politicians, and also from other governmental organizations. So there is an opportunity for this, we call them young journalists, to take interviews, and also we took them to Sveriges Radio, Svete, to see the atmosphere of real newsroom things. Yeah.
Very interesting. How old are those students? How old are those students?
They're between 15 and 18.
Then, of course, there was a moment of interaction and networking. How was it? Did they like it? Photojournalist Paul sums it all.
So I'm a photojournalist, freelance. I've been working at Göteborgs-Posten for 1.5 years now, and just started freelancing, and I want to work more abroad as well. So a community like this is pretty much right on. It's great place to network and meet other people, and it's interesting to hear what people see that I don't see in Gothenburg. Very happy about it. It's something that I sort of like looked for and wished they were. So when I heard about it, I was very excited, and I'm very surprised actually how many people turned up, and I think it's going to be a very nice place to network. What excited me, I think it's just how many people that showed up. I'm surprised that there are so many journalists that are not from Gothenburg who are actually choosing to go here and live here. And as I'm born and raised here, so I'm a bit surprised that people actually make that decision to come and stay here and work from Gothenburg for 4G Medias. And hopefully for Swedish ones, inshallah.
Will you be able to attend the next one if you're invited?
Yeah, I will, for sure, if I'm able to. As long as I'm here in Gothenburg, I will.
Yes, that was the first event for the Hub. But several other similar events, big and small, are in the offing. Stay tuned, for the best is yet to come.